Welcome to the New Leaf podcast for turning over a new leaf in financial advice. And on today's episode, we've got a bit of a change of pace because I'm joined by Gordon Reid from the LIBF. Now, these guys are known for providing qualifications to help you get into this industry. We're looking in particular today at the new CeMAP updates.
Obviously, the key starting point, for anybody who wants to be a mortgage advisor, if we start with, is going to be the CeMAP qualification certificate in mortgage advice and practice. So that is the license to trade, if you like. That is the key qualification for anybody new to the industry.
We're also going to be reviewing diploma and what it takes to become an investment advisor and what you need to do on the DipFA.
So a level 4 qualification should be more challenging. Even if the content is similar, the academic standard is slightly higher with FSRI. Now, does that mean it's more difficult? Does it mean it's more challenging? It might, and it might mean for some learners that they need to do a little bit more work or to apply themselves a little bit harder.
And finally, we talk a lot about the resource available, not just from New Leaf, but also from the LIBF themselves with their Brightspace learning platform.
But even if you haven't got somebody to show you, just click on things, just look at it. As you say, there are sections, there are tiles. When you go into the course site, there are tiles which will talk about learning resources, and you can just click on them and it'll show you exactly what you've got there. It'll show you, even with things like the examination process, there's now a tile which will show you and give you almost like a dummy experience of the examination process to take that fear away.
So listen in, enjoy, and learn all about getting into this industry. Hi Gordon, welcome to the New Leaf podcast. How are you doing today?
Very good, thanks Dan, and thanks for the invite. Really appreciate getting the opportunity to talk to you.
It's really cool because on these episodes we're used to speaking to lots of different businesses, but in this particular case you represent the LIBF, and I really wanted to speak to you because we talk a lot about how to do well in business, what sort of tenets you need as an advisor, what characteristics you need to be successful. But actually, let's bring it right back to the start and talk about what bloody qualifications do you need in the first place?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. I mean, obviously, the key starting point, for anybody who wants to be a mortgage advisor, if we start with, is going to be the CeMAP qualification certificate in mortgage advice and practice. So that is the license to trade, if you like. That is the key qualification for anybody new to the industry.
Now, there's a few options people can have, and you guys are one of the examining bodies that have created an exam that is regulatory approved, that allows someone to then, that sort of barrier to entry, isn't it? To then become an advisor, you have to actually have that qualification. You can't not have it. If you want to be regulated advisor, you've got to have CeMAP or equivalent.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
I do think that you guys have got a really good stranglehold on the mortgage qualification marketplace. I feel like a lot of people I speak to anyway say they've done CeMAP.
Yeah. It's fair to say that a significant majority of mortgage advisors have taken the CeMAP qualification through LIBF or one of our previous guises.
Yeah. And that qualification goes back quite a long time. I mean, I did it
1999, I believe, Dan.
Yeah, and obviously before M-Day came in and actually, the qualifications were ratified under the new regime in 2004. And that was, I imagine, that was a crazy time for people trying to get the qualification. But I took it in 2005, like 20 years ago. 20 years ago, can you believe it? I don't know old enough to be able to do 20 years ago.
I took mine in the first year it came out, so I can appreciate, and I was quite glad I had it before M-Day because, as you say, it was crazy back in those days.
Yeah, well, I was just a kid at the time and I had no clue. I probably found it like
What's
10
changed?
times. But yeah, this is the thing. I now, as you know, I'm a trainer in CeMAP as well, and as part of being CEO of New Leaf, I do a lot of training. I enjoy it, and I find it fun to help people get into the industry. And part of helping people is to get them through the qualification, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to say that in that 20-year period, it's not changed much. The qualification, has it? The content generally?
The content hasn't changed hugely. There have been changes that happen every year. So every year we update it. I think one of the things just to recognise is that we don't necessarily dictate exactly what's contained within the content. There's something called the APEX standards, the appropriate examination standards.
Of course, yeah.
And you have to ensure that whoever is offering a qualification, you have to make sure that you're covering the APEX standards. So sometimes people will comment and say, oh, why is that included there? Why we include? Well, because it's in the APEX standards. What we are doing now, however, is we're focusing very much on modernising the learning experience.
And I think that's really fair to say. And obviously recently you've implemented changes to CeMAP.
Yeah.
And it's like going to see a surgeon. You've gone in there and you've really had a big dig around and you've changed it dramatically. So the qualification now has been updated.
Yes.
Is completely different to how I was used to seeing it. And also as a trainer as well, it's new and interesting. I actually think it's great. It's a great change. But I'd love you to talk to our listeners who are interested in getting into the industry and they're fearful maybe of exams. A lot of people may be a little bit older. They haven't done exams for a long time. What can they expect from the new style CeMAP qualification?
I think the big change from our perspective is that it's much more learner focused. So we've changed the learner experience. We've tried to make the learner experience a more interactive experience. We've tried to ensure that regardless of your learning style, there's something in there. There's ways for you to actually identify what we're trying to get across, for you to actually pick up the learning, and for you to actually have an enjoyable interactive learning experience. I think the idea of a traditional exam where somebody just does lots and lots and lots and lots of learning and then at the end of it just takes an exam is not the way people learn these days. It's much more people learn in bite-sized chunks. So again, the program is broken down into absolute bite-sized chunks, and somebody undertaking the course can actually see exactly where they are and get tested as they're going along. So we talk about formative learning and formative testing and summative testing. So summative testing is what you get at the end. It's the exam, if you like. But throughout the program now, we've got lots and lots of formative testing because that's what really consolidates people's learning. That's what helps them cement the learning and understand what it means to them.
Awesome. And the way you take the exams, is it written? Is it multiple choice? How do you approach that?
Okay. It is not written. It is. So we have changed the exam experience recently as well.
Okay.
So previously, a lot of people would have taken their exams at like the driving test centres. They would have had the option to either take them to the driving test centre or to do a remote invigilation type test at home or in their workplace. But that had some challenges with it. Now we've actually introduced it so that the exam is taken on the same learning platform, Brightspace, as the learning. So somebody doesn't have to give 6 weeks notice or however long to find a slot in the local driving. Okay. They can actually book their exam. They can say to themselves, right, I'm ready. I'm actually ready to take my exam today, tomorrow, next day, whatever day they choose. And they can undertake the exam on the learning platform, which they're already familiar with. Now, in terms of the style of questions, what you will have is they are all based on what you've actually learned. So the first thing to say is anybody who's thinking, LIBF might put the odd catch question in there or might put a question that hasn't been taught, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's why I heard that in the past. Like people say, they're going to try and catch you out on the multiple choice questions, but it's not true, is it?
It's not true. It's not true. It's one of those.
Conspiracies.
Yeah, conspiracy theories. It's simply not true. And we're not there to catch people out. We want people to pass. The essential thing is we want people to pass because they've learned what they need to learn and because they've put the work in. No, we don't want people to pass because they've taken a lucky guess on every answer. We want people to pass because they've put the work in, but we're not here to catch people out.
And you've made that, you mentioned the flexibility, that the way you can take the exams at any time, at your own pace, which I completely understand that being an amazing feature, because when I did it back in the day and I had to book in the test centre, and I remember, my test centre locally, there was no slots for months. I had to pick one that was miles away.
Yeah.
You got to get there, you got the pressure of that on top. So the changes you've made, in particular with how you take the test, is just so much better for the experience.
Yeah. I think that's a really significant change. We've done other things with the qualification as well. So I'd say one of the biggest changes we've made, and this is particularly attractive for people who are thinking about their long-term careers, is CeMAP has always been split into 3 modules.
Okay.
It continues to be split in 3 modules.
Sure.
The 3 modules are now all of quite a similar size. But the big change with the first module, CeMAP 1, is CeMAP 1 was always something called United Kingdom Financial Regulations, UKFR.
Yeah.
And if somebody became or wanted to subsequently become a financial advisor, they would have to take a different examination called Financial Services Regulation and Ethics, which covered very similar
it was quite
content.
Similar, wasn't
it was similar
Yeah.
content,
Yeah.
but you had to take UKFR for CeMAP and you had to take FSRI for DipFA.
Yeah.
Now, everybody who starts out all starts on the same modules. Everyone starts on FSRI, which means if I qualify to become a mortgage advisor and 2 to 3 years down the line, I'm thinking, oh, I want to develop my career and become a financial advisor, I've already got that first module of my qualification and I don't need to redo it. So
that's awesome because, I mean, especially if I just hark back to Newleaf, and we do a lot of work with mortgage advisors transitioning to IFAs. And you're right, you would have to do the extra qualification before, but now with this new change, which I think is incredible, it not only does it save the potential advisor time and revision and so on, because it's one exam, it covers both sides.
Yep.
It also saves them money.
Yeah, I was going to say absolutely saves them money. Probably saves something like £300.
Yeah, which is when you're starting out, that's massive.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Brightspace earlier and how you can take the exam on your own learning platform.
Yep.
And I wanted to lean into that a bit more because as someone who trains the content and I help people get through the CeMAP qualification, more so than the IFA side, but mainly the CeMAP side. But I use that Brightspace website. I really do show that off to people. There's no point in creating something that is already there and great. And I don't think people realise how much you have in the resources on your online platform.
No, I don't. Please, anybody listening, don't take this as a challenge, but you can't break that platform. I say to people, I'll sometimes spend, sometimes with corporates, I will actually spend a bit of time showing them exactly what's available there. But even if you haven't got somebody to show you, just click on things, just look at it. As you say, there are sections, there are tiles. When you go into the course site, there are tiles which will talk about learning resources, and you can just click on them and it'll show you exactly what you've got there. It'll show you, even with things like the examination process, there's now a tile which will show you and give you almost like a dummy experience of the examination process to take that fear away. I think the other great thing is if you are in Brightspace, Brightspace takes all the material and breaks it into very, very small chunks. So you might think, oh, I've got X number of topics. Oh, how far through am I? How much more study have I got to do? You can see exactly what you've done and you can see exactly how much more you've got to do. And that in itself is sometimes a little bit easier than, the old days of having a big, thick 4-inch thick textbook, which was quite scary. We're away from those days. That's not how people learn. Interestingly enough, we do still get some students who would say, I really want a printed copy.
Sure, yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah.
You can print it. You can print it for yourself. There is the ability to go onto Brightspace, and there's the option to print a PDF copy of a particular chapter or the whole thing if you really want to, but you're going to need a lot of paper.
That's a lot of paper.
It's a lot of paper. And I think the thing that we realised was that a lot of people weren't using the printed books. So if people aren't using the printed books, let's not automatically, we're in a green world. We don't want to be printing out loads and loads of books that people aren't going to use and perhaps use them as firewood.
No, and also there's a I think there's a risk of people sort of reselling them as well. And if you weren't to know better, you could end up buying a book that's not the right year, right academic. Especially now with the changes, like if you get the wrong book now, it's not going to help you at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I love about it is that you can just be on the go. I could be on the train, got an hour to kill. Just bring up Brightspace, bring up the topic I want to read, and I can just do it on my phone. I can read on my phone, work through the quizzes. And that's something else, like there's the quizzes you can do on Brightspace, which are really cool. It gives you really good examples of the sort of questions you might receive in the real test. And you've got some really good video topic videos as well, which on each topic, which and again, break it down.
That's going to this thing about modernising the learning experience. We've introduced more videos, more audios, more little clips, more. And I think the other thing that we've tried to do...
You put me out of a job, mate, all this great stuff. What am I going to do with my content?
You've got plenty to do, I think you find, Dan. And so the other thing with the content is because it is in bite-sized chunks and is so accessible, it does mean that, as you say, you can do it on the go.
Yeah.
the thing to remember, I mean, you talked about going onto Brightspace on your phone. The other thing to remember is that we actually have an app. So
cool.
It's not just that you've got to go onto the web page.
No.
There is an actual LIBF Pulse app, which you can use. It's specifically designed for your mobile phone or for your iPad. So if you're on the train, etc., it's not like you're trying to create a web-based experience through your phone. You've actually got something specific for your mobile devices.
And I'm happy to say that I'm not out of a job, luckily. And actually, all this stuff is really helpful for me as a trainer. And and I'm really pleased that recently we were re-accredited again as one of your learning support providers. And that's a great thing for my credibility. And obviously, we want to really, really go for it and help people get into this industry. Having that stamp of approval really assists us. But then I can then use your material as well, the things you've done, I can leverage that and build up both the brands as well. And obviously the new changes that you've made to the book have really reinvigorated the training process, and we brought out a new learning support platform for CeMAP delegates. We want to make it easier to train as well. We want to make the resources available to them really simply. Have a community back to the community forum that's going to help them build up their support and confidence with each other as well. So that's really exciting.
And I think that's the great thing, is that what you're looking to do is not replace what we offer. You're looking to supplement and to complement.
100%.
And I think that's one of the things. If I were a learner, the thing I would be looking at is, what resources do I get as part of my registration with LIBF, and what do I need to supplement that? There are lots and lots of offerings out there, but you need to work out what's right for you.
Yeah, and we have a free option, so people can literally come on once a week. Just we talk about different topics each week, open to anybody. You've got the community backing it up as well, and that's really for the self-study person who's really going to lean into Brightspace more as well to revise and to learn. And we also have the premium option where they can have the full training suite available from us, and we have all the videos and every topic, and that's very it's only £19 or so a month to subscribe to it, so super cheap. No tie-in period for anyone. I think that works then well for different types of learners. Completely
absolutely.
fine either way, whatever way you want to interact with us in particular. New Leaf.
Absolutely.
Now, moving on from CeMAP, the other really important qualification, and I know you do lots of qualifications, but there's a certain number that actually have a real barrier to becoming an advisor where you need to have it. The CeMAP's one of them for being a regulated mortgage advisor.
Yes.
But if we want to be an investment advisor, either independent or restricted, you have to have a diploma in financial advice. Now, we briefly mentioned about this the new style where FISRI, the first part of diploma, is now also the first part of CeMAP. So that would count if you had already done the CeMAP qualification. You now get that exemption. But really, just like for you to talk more about diploma in general, why is it level 4 rather than level 3? Because we've got a certificate and we've got diploma. So what's the real difference there between the two?
The standards are, or the challenge, the level of challenge is going to be slightly greater. The academic level, we talk about a certificate, a level 3 qualification being the equivalent of an A level.
Level quite high standard still.
Level 4 is really that next level up. So a level 4 qualification should be more challenging, even if the content is similar. So we talked about the fact that there is quite a similarity in the content that used to be in Module 1 of CeMAP, UKFR, and what is Module 1 of the DipFA qualification, FISRI. Content is similar, but the academic standard is slightly higher with FISRI. Now, does that mean it's more difficult? Does it mean it's more challenging? It might, and it might mean for some learners that they need to do a little bit more work or to apply themselves a little bit harder, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not something that somebody should be fearful of. It might just mean that they need a different level of support or a different way of studying to complete those qualifications.
I mean, the majority of the diploma is also multiple choice question style.
Yes.
which people will be familiar with from
Yep.
if they had done CeMAP previously,
Yep.
or if you're just starting in it, of course.
Yes.
But-
From an examination point of view, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but there's obviously more of a focus on investments and pensions,
Yep.
of course.
Yep.
And I think there's that critical thinking element that comes into it that maybe elevates it to level 4 when it comes to that last part of the examination.
And that's a part that we changed relatively recently as well, because what we wanted to do was we wanted to put our learners in a real life type situation. So what they get now is they get a case study, and they get so it's a piece of coursework, if you like, that they have to complete, but very much like you would have in real life. So previously there was an end of program examination. So yes, you'd get a case study so far in advance, but then you would go and sit an exam, and you'd have something like 3 hours to complete that exam. But now we actually give people a certain amount. We don't restrict it to 3 hours. We give them a date by which they must submit that coursework, and that's real life. Because in real life, if I come and talk to you, and I go, and I carry out a fact find, and then I want to go away and diagnose that, and I want to think about what advice. I don't have a 3 hour restriction on being able to work out what some of what you are. The advice you're offering is extremely complicated.
Yeah.
And if you could categorically say that you can always get the right advice in 3 hours, well, that's ridiculous. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to make, and this is one of the things with all of our qualifications, so even going back to CeMAP 3 is about the practical application of the knowledge you've learned.
Sure.
So this is very much where we try to make sure that our qualifications test people's ability to put some of their knowledge into pragmatic and practical situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with diploma in particular, that change is really helpful because, like you say, when you had that time limit, and especially when it used to be paper written, handwritten as well. I mean, when I did it, I went to one of the lecture halls in Westminster here in London, and I had that 3 hours to write my report back to the client based on their fact find. I tell you what, I don't know how I even passed the exam because my handwriting
I don't know how you passed it either, Dan.
I know, I do question that all the time. But that after, honestly, 3 hours of handwriting, I mean, I looked back over my answer, I was like, how are they going to read this?
Yeah.
Now, I passed, thankfully, but I think maybe the examiner was just like, "Oh yeah, he looks all right. He's okay. He's done enough pages. This is
no. I'm sure it was good quality.
They
Dan.
probably
We wouldn't have done
that.
that. Yeah.
But obviously now the great thing is like because it's more like real life. You're typing out a report,
Exactly.
and most reports are on computer. They're computerized, aren't they? Clients aren't getting handwritten reports, are they? But like you say, like you got that time to put it in. So there's a deadline. It's not like it's unlimited.
Absolutely, because again, you wouldn't have unlimited time if you had a real client. You couldn't say to a real client, I'll send the report in 6 months. They'd be like, I need it in a couple of weeks or whatever the case might be. So it's designed to be a realistic, again, I wouldn't say that it means that as soon as somebody's completed one of our exams, it would be a mistake to say that means that they're fit to do the job without any supervision, without any additional support, without any additional coaching. It is designed to illustrate the fact that they've reached a threshold standard. They've demonstrated that they can learn. They've demonstrated that they have the basic knowledge that if somebody then takes them on, they can support them to become a competent advisor.
To be honest, like as well, it just comes down to that basic investment in yourself. That if you are willing or your objective is to be in this industry, and let's be honest, like paying for these exams isn't necessarily cheap. Like if you're doing all of them, you got to pay a bit of money towards that and to invest in your time and then to pay for a trainer potentially and all these other things that come to it. But that shows a commitment and a willingness from someone who actually wants to really make this happen. And that's what I think it's really cool that like not anybody will do that.
No.
And you do need to have some barriers, I think, in the industry to showcase the person who's really committed over someone who maybe is just looking at doing a side hustle.
Yeah. It's interesting because you alluded at the start of this conversation, you alluded to the skill set that people need to be successful in business. And I think that applies to the gaining the qualifications in the first place. You do need a certain amount of self-drive. You need a certain amount of commitment, and if you haven't got that, if you are not committed enough to put yourself out, and it's not necessarily a huge amount of time, but if you're not committed to do that to learn the basics, then how are you going to be committed to do that to run a business? because the one thing I know is running a business is a darn sight more challenging than passing a qualification.
It is.
You pass the qualification, you've got that qualification. You've got that qualification for life. Nobody ever takes that away from you.
And I would say to people listening to this about, what does it take to be an owner? Like, watch some of our other episodes that are on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple, because honestly, you're going to hear from an amazing array of people who've done this, set their own businesses up for different permission areas, all walks of life, and it can hopefully inspire them to help them, understand what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this podcast, Gordon, is called the New Leaf Podcast, and our tagline is turning over a new leaf in financial advice. We're asking all our guests, what is the one new leaf that you've turned over in your institution?
I think the biggest thing that we've turned over has been our approach to learning, in the sense of, we've always been learner focused, but we've changed the way our programs are being presented to our learners. So they're very much more interactive. We've worked on them all over the last 3, 4, 5 years, and we continue to do so. As I said, the changes to CeMAP have been significant. The changes to DipFA we made before that. We're looking at what qualifications. We're looking at the next qualification. We've got an ongoing program of development. And if you do stand still, then you soon fall behind. So from our point of view, we're turning over a new leaf, if you like, every year, every month.
Yeah. Excellent. And obviously, we've spoken about a couple of qualifications. You do loads more than just that. Obviously, enough time to talk about everything today. But if someone was listening interested to find out more about what you can offer them, a career in financial services, where would they go?
Yeah, as you say, we do offer a lot more. We offer a lot more to support the ongoing development, because I think that's a really key thing that we would say is it's not enough just to qualify. We want people to continue with their development, and development is an ongoing journey. So if anybody's looking, go onto our website, www.walbrook.ac.uk. You will also find us. So LIBF, we are part of the Walbrook Group. If you happen to search under www.libf.ac.uk, you'll come to the same place, and you'll find a section on there for professional qualifications.
Brilliant. Look, it's been fantastic to have you on here. We're really proud to be associated to this, your institution for many, many years, and hopefully going forward we'll work together as we have been, and for many, many more years. But look, thanks for coming on the New Leaf Podcast and for sharing how you've turned a new leaf in financial advice.
Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to the next invite. Thank you very much. Great to see you.